Most people don't realize this. A miserable life rarely begins with a single catastrophic moment. It's not one heartbreak, one failure, or one tragedy. It's something much quieter, much slower, something that grows inside us, unnoticed, for years. A miserable life begins when we ignore the lessons life keeps trying to teach us. Lessons older than empires, wiser than kings, repeated by philosophers for thousands of years. Lessons we hear, but rarely listen to. Lesson 1. You are not in control of the world. The first seed of misery is planted the moment you believe you can control everything around you. You try to change people. You try to force outcomes. You try to rewrite the past. You treat life like a machine that should obey the buttons you press. But the Stoics remind us, we control almost nothing except our own mind. And yet we spend our days worrying about what others think of us, panicking about future events we cannot touch, and beating ourselves up over moments that have already passed. Trying to control the uncontrollable does not make life easier. It makes it unbearable. When you let go, you don't lose power. You regain it. Lesson 2. Your perception creates your pain. Two people can live the same day, face the same events, hear the same words, and walk away with two completely different experiences. Why? Because suffering doesn't come from events themselves. It comes from the story we tell ourselves about those events. The Stoics teach, it's not what happens to you, but how you see it. If you tell yourself you're a victim, life will look like an attack. If you tell yourself you're cursed, every inconvenience becomes a tragedy. If you tell yourself nothing ever works, you'll stop seeing the things that do. Your perception is the lens through which your world is built. Change the lens, and the world changes with it. Lesson 3. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Most people aren't miserable because life hurt them. They're miserable because they never learned to face discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid challenges. They avoid anything that might make them stretch beyond who they currently are. But comfort is a slow poison. It feels safe until you realize it has trapped you in a small, shrinking life. The Stoics embrace discomfort intentionally. Cold mornings, discipline, silence, solitude. Not because they like suffering, but because they understood something we forget. Strength is not something you find. It's something you build. And you build it by facing what you fear. Lesson 4. Emotions are messengers, not masters. A miserable life is often ruled by emotions that were never questioned. Anger that was never understood. Fear that was never examined. Sadness that was never expressed. Jealousy that was never challenged. The Stoics didn't deny emotions. They studied them. They asked questions. Why am I angry? What am I afraid of? What story am I telling myself that makes this hurt? You cannot live well if your emotions drive your life like an untrained horse. But you can live peacefully if you learn to ride them, calmly with awareness. Freedom starts the moment you stop reacting and start observing. Lesson 5. You become what you do. Daily misery isn't created by one terrible choice. It is created by the same small choices repeated for years. Putting off what matters. Chasing dopamine instead of meaning. Escaping problems instead of solving them. Scrolling instead of thinking. Distracting yourself instead of evolving. The Stoics teach that your habits shape your destiny. If you want a meaningful life, build meaningful habits. If you want a calm mind, practice calmness daily. If you want inner strength, train it like a muscle. A good life is not an accident, it is a practice. Lesson 6. Reflection is the gateway to wisdom. A miserable life often belongs to the person who never slows down, never pauses, never asks, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Who am I becoming? The Stoics ended every day with reflection. What did I do well today? What challenged me? Where can I improve tomorrow? Without reflection, you drift. With reflection, you navigate. The difference between misery and mastery is simply awareness. Lesson 7. Life is shorter than you think. Nothing creates misery faster than acting like you will live forever, putting off dreams, delaying healing, avoiding risks, postponing the life you want. Marcus Aurelius wrote every morning, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do today." This isn't morbid, it's liberating. It reminds us that the only time we truly own is this moment right now in front of us. Live today well, and you'll live your whole life well. Lesson 8. The meaning of life is found in contribution. A miserable life is often self-centered, not intentionally, but habitually. My problems, my goals, my desires, my pain. But something incredible happens when you lift your eyes from your own world and look toward others, helping, guiding, supporting, creating, contributing. The Stoics believed the purpose of life is to serve the common good, to leave the world a little better than you found it. When you focus only on yourself, life feels small. When you contribute, life expands. Meaning grows where selfishness ends. Final message. Ignoring these lessons is the fastest way to build a miserable life. A life full of anxiety, confusion, regret, and inner chaos. But living these lessons leads somewhere different. Toward clarity, toward strength, toward calmness, toward freedom. You don't need to change your whole life at once. You just need to start with one decision. To live with awareness, to live with courage, to live with intention. The Stoics didn't promise a perfect life, they promised a meaningful one. And that begins the moment you choose to listen.